Facebook family, this is OJ Hancock down here with Mr. Bennett. Hey, how you doing today?
I'm okay. How are you, Mr.
All right. I'm just curious. We want to know, how do you feel that the Ray Tenzin case, or to give us more of an understanding of what's going on?
Well, first of all, it's a racially, politically charged case, and it's very emotional for the community, particularly the black community. And a lot of times, we look at things emotionally, and we look at things from a racial perspective. What I can give you as an attorney is a legal perspective, and a very objective, neutral one. I'm acquainted with the facts and circumstances, the events in the case, all of the evidence and the law. And based on my experience, and this is a professional opinion, not a personal one, my professional opinion is that he'll probably be found not guilty of the charges, or either a hung jury, because the evidence in the case is just not strong enough to actually prove that this was a purposeful killing, in the sense that the only thing he was thinking about at the time he pulled that trigger was to kill Mr. DuBose. I think a lot of the evidence, a significant portion of it, indicates that he may have been trying to rid himself of perceived harm, which is the law. What we need to realize is that when a police officer kills somebody in the line of duty, the law favors an acquittal, and there's nothing you can do about that. And the state of Ohio and the Hamilton County Prosecutor's Office is doing everything to prevent that from happening, but the law is really stacked against them. So I think my prediction is that there's going to be a hung jury. I no longer think he'll be acquitted, because it's 4 days has transpired for jury deliberations. If they're going to acquit him, I thought they would have did so on the first or second day. I could be wrong. This is not 2 + 2 is 4. It's not science or math, but I think there's going to be a hung jury, and I think the hung jury is going to be declared this afternoon.
Okay, well, thank you. Well, another question. When you saw the video, let's separate you from the legal aspect, but as a human being, just watching that video, what did you see?
As a human being, as an African-American man, having a son, having uncles, brothers, I was disturbed. I was distraught, and I was angered. I think you had an individual that was slaughtered. I think what transpired is that Officer Tenzin went into a state of rage because Mr. DuBose would not comply with his orders and his commands, and it pissed him off, and he snapped and killed him. That's what I think happened. I think it's hard to prove that when you have experts that'll say otherwise, and you've got a well-prepared witness like Officer Tenzin, who is trained to testify in a certain way to a jury. That's what makes the case difficult for the state of Ohio to prove. But me personally, I told you what I think happened. I think he didn't follow his commands, and he snapped and shot him.
Okay. Now, besides the case here locally, the case in Minnesota with Mr. Castillo, how do you feel about that? I mean, it seems like it's a trend across the country. It's one after the other. I mean, they just seem like the black man is not getting fair justice in any of these cases. And how do you feel about that? What's going on across the country to black men, women, and children?
I feel like there's a problem. There's a problem with police misconduct. There's a problem with police brutality. There's a problem with with people in general devaluing the life of black people, particularly black men. And I think the police are afraid in general of black men, and that's why you have the type of engagement or interaction, which is sometimes fatal, between police officers and black men. You keep seeing acquittals because of the law. Again, the law, just not in the state of Ohio, but in any state, most states that make up the country and across the nation, they favor an acquittal when a police officer is involved in a shooting while he's in the line of duty, or while he's doing his job. Now, I'll tell you something about that shooting in Minnesota. I saw the rest of the video, and it's disturbing. It makes you angry because you had an officer who was afraid and who was nervous and just didn't know how to handle himself, so he fired a weapon. And he killed a man unnecessarily. That was a crime. But the law doesn't favor the conviction for a crime. And if you have resources, you have a good attorney, you can assemble a defense, and you can be found not guilty even if you're guilty. We know that from a lot of other cases, not just police officers. If you got the money to assemble a defense, you can raise doubt with respect to your guilt, even if you're guilty.
Okay, we talked about the problem. Now, what do you see as being a solution for the black man, the black family, black folks in general across the country? What's a part of the solution? How do we fix this?
That's an excellent question, and that's what everybody should be concerned with, and that's what that should be everybody's goal and objective, to stop this from happening. And I tell you, this is a solution. The solution is not necessarily to protest. The solution is not necessarily to be violent. The solution is to change the law. Change the law with respect to justifiable killings, or the justifiable defense that a police officer has when he's involved in a shooting. The way the law is set up now, the police is justified if he believes that he perceived imminent serious bodily harm or death, then he can kill. He's justified in killing. Change that law. Change that law on a statewide basis. Create a federal law that dismantles the justifiable defense that police officers have. Then you will have police officers that will be found guilty and that will be convicted based on their actions, and that would be a deterrent in the future for other police officers to not behave in that manner. Okay. So the answer is to change the law.
Okay. Well, thank you, Mr. Bennett, for giving us some of your time.
Okay.
Really appreciate it.
Okay.
Thank you. This is OJ Hancock, and we out, Mr. Bennett. Thank you.
I'll see you later.
Yep.